5, 6. Yep, in the presence of a quorum. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It is my goal to get, I was going to say it's my goal to get you out of here in 2 hours. I guess it should be off of here in 2 hours or less. Nothing's going to beat last month's record of, 46 minutes. But we have a couple of usual updates, one substantive program item, agenda item from the corner project, and possibly some new business. Actually, definitely some new business. I was contacted by a member of the public who wanted to ask about the committee doing a resolution requesting that the committee and the board pass a resolution asking our federal electeds to direct federal infrastructure money towards the Lighthouse Link project, which is something we've had on our priority list for years. So it may be that that's something that we decide we want to do a reso for that, but I'm going to leave that to new business. I mention it not as a discussion item now, but to just have a placeholder in people's minds that we may well want to have a discussion about that, and to leave some time and energy for that at the end of the meeting. I usually leave myself a list of things that I want to give you updates about, and between having COVID, having had to go out of town to take care of an aging relative, and then not leaving myself time today to prepare more fully for this meeting, I don't have that list. So I might periodically jump in with a couple of reminders. I did have a brief conversation with my contact at the Parks Revenue Department. So as you may recall, there, of course, Fort Tryon Park has a concession in the park. It closed in, it was closed in December of 2019, right before the pandemic. The concessionaire violated their contract and closed it, ceased operation and closed it. And the concessionaire, the concession was in the middle of an RFP process. There had been a highest bidder or best bidder to which the concession would have been awarded, but the conversations broke down. The second concessionaire conversations also broke down. So Parks Department decided to just rebid the whole thing. And then of course, COVID happened. So there were a whole lot of delays there. Then they were just about ready to do it. And then this guy whose name I don't like to use because I don't have any toothpaste or mouthwash handy, but he used to be president. There was like a whole issue with his parks concessions. And so that that section of the Parks Department was very busy with that. They did finally get the RFP out. There were some number of responses. They're very close to making an announcement. You may have read on Facebook a definitive news as to who the concessionaire is. I have no idea as to whether or not that's true. It may be that the concessionaire has stated information, the prospective concessionaire has stated information to friends of theirs, and then in the way of rumors, everybody thinks they know what they're talking about when sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So all of that is a very long way of saying there's probably going to be some news very soon, but I don't actually know what that news is going to be. And if I did, I couldn't tell you. But hopefully the Parks Department is very clear on what the community's priorities were in terms of accessibility, in terms of making sure that there were affordable price points, in terms of making sure that the whatever concessionaire was picked, that this would be a good community partner and willing to work with all the various community-based organizations as a sponsor and as a good business partner. So I think that Parks, certainly heard that kind of feedback when they made the selection for the new concession at the marina. And I think that we as a community are really, really happy with the concession that was awarded there. I say this not because he has anything to do with Fort Tryon Park, but that's a good example and a recent example of Parks Department having heard this community and acted accordingly. So I have every reason to believe that this will be good news, but I have no idea what the news actually will be.
Can I just add to that, Liz?
Yes, please do.
There will be a public hearing before an agreement is signed, and just as part of our regular protocol, the community board will be notified when that is.
Because and then that also has to go to the FCRC, the Franchise and Concession Review Committee of the City Council. So, it's a process.
It's not city council, it's borough presidents, but same thing, citywide.
Okay. And, so it's the beginning or middle of January. So it seems to me possible that we will be looking at, an open concession, maybe not by the beginning of the summer, but it seems to me certainly that's possible. And certainly at some point in the summer, when the weather is nice, we may well be looking at a live concession in that space, which would be fantastic because it's been a couple of years and that is a very COVID-friendly option. So I think that's all I have on the Fort Tryon Park concession. Did you have a comment or a question specifically on that item, Barbara?
Yeah, is the RFP publicly available that we can review before this public hearing?
The RFP
we received it.
And it was developed based on the community board. I think you gave us an inventory of.
Yes, but yes, it is available and it was circulated to us, and I will make a note to go through. I'm sure I have that.
Yeah, we also have new members who wouldn't have seen it, and I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm happy.
It may have been when I was in the hospital.
Sure. Yeah. So I am happy to dig through my old emails and forward that to the committee. I won't send it to Barbara. I will send it to the committee for everybody's review. I believe voting has closed for, picking your favorite movies at the United Palace, but they will, subject to whatever is the latest COVID weirdness, they will be having in-person screenings monthly starting January 30th, free in the evenings with some related entertainment, which I think will be very fun. Is Marty Collins on the call? Yes, he is. Okay, so he's got announcements. He'll make them when we get to that portion of the agenda. I don't think I have any other announcements and updates. So with that in mind, I would like to move to item 2, the brief programming updates, and attendees are welcome to raise their hands. And I will call on you in the order in which your hands are raised. Martin Collins.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to everybody, and want to take an opportunity to update you briefly on 3 important announcements from NOMA. The first is the small grants for individual artists in Washington Heights and Inwood and West Harlem, ranging from $2,500 up to $5,000. And you can read all about that in our newsletter, which came out this afternoon. The second item is the Uptown Art Stroll poster contest. This is the 20th Uptown Art Stroll in Washington Heights, Inwood, and West Harlem. And we begin each stroll as we do with the poster contest. There are 3 levels of awards. The first is the grand prize, $1,250 to the first place artist, along with the banner front cover of the 10,000 guides, which we will be printing this year, and also the front of the poster and postcards that go along with the promotion of the Uptown Art Stroll. Second prize is $500 and third prize is $250. And finally, there is opportunities for artists of all disciplines to rent studio space at what's NOMA's studios at 4140. And you can read all about those, as well as the poster contest and the small grants for artists uptown in our newsletter, which was published today on our website, nomanyc.org. That's NOMAANYC.org. And if you have any questions on any and all of those subjects, you can certainly email us at info@nomanyc.org. Thank you, Liz and Nobles.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. If you could, and just Etta, just so you know, I generally ask people to send me a quick summary of their comments. So, you know, if it went by too quickly, no worries. I will share that with you.
Liz, I emailed Nobles and you at 6:10.
Yep,
I know you did.
And I just forwarded it to Etta.
Thanks so much, Nobles. And Marty did remind me that one of the things I did do last month was tour NOMA's new offices, and they're just beautiful. And what a huge, huge gift that is to the community for people to be able to have access to beautiful rehearsal space to rent, you know, just much more easily and affordably than if you were looking for rehearsal space out of the neighborhood. Next up, we have Francis Hall.
Francis, I think you're on mute. If you just unmute yourself.
I should be unmuted now. Can you hear me?
You're good. Yes.
All right, terrific. So I'm here today representing the Inwood Canoe Club. We haven't provided an update in a while, but we're hoping to get someone to pop in regularly to let you know what's going on the water down at the Dykeman waterfront. I'm going to run through our updates as quickly as possible. Things are pretty quiet at the boathouse right now during the winter. I mean, the water temperature is about 40 degrees. But the club's vice commodore is on site most days. He's overseeing the upkeep of the facility. There's also a dedicated group of winter paddlers who is undeterred by the cold. Behind the scenes, we're starting to plan our 2022 programs. We're brainstorming the scale and types of programs that we're going to offer once the weather warms up and depending on what's going on with the virus. As part of that, we have 4 American Canoe Association certified instructors. They've been working on safety plans for our public programs, as well as skills development opportunities for members and the general public. So just to back up a little bit to what we did in the past, COVID prevented Inwood Canoe Club from offering public programs in 2020. But in 2021, the Sunday morning open house program resumed. Over the 12 Sundays that we hosted programs, nearly 300 guests paddled with us. Of those guests, 60% were from this district, the zip codes within this district. The changes to the programs that we implemented when we resumed programming last summer, just to keep things safe and organized, we put a new online sign-up system in place. And we did have a vaccination requirement for all guests and member volunteers at our open house. Unfortunately, the vaccination requirement meant that open house was restricted to older teens and adults that year. But we did offer scaled back youth programs when possible, and we're looking forward to providing some paddling opportunities for children and families in 2022. Some of the stuff that we did provide last year, we have an ongoing partnership with the City Parks Foundation Coastal Classroom. We collaborated with the Urban Park Rangers, and then of course, our neighbors who stop by the gate are always welcome. Many of our senior members will arrange small paddling outings with people who pop by and say hello to us. And finally, in 2020, we only admitted 3 new members, but we brought in 13 new members this past October, many of whom came to us through the open house program. So yeah, I think that's all I've got. I don't have contact information for y'all, but Nobles or Liz, if you want to send me your email addresses, I can pass my notes along to you to include in the minutes.
I'll put it in the chat like I answered you for your last question.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Whoops, I'm
Okay.
muted. We got Jennifer with a question. What you got there?
Hi, this is Alex. I'm sorry.
Wait, hold on a second. I think Jennifer had a question for the previous speaker. So
Hi, Jennifer, you're on mute.
you're on mute.
I wasn't sure if there are any other culturals going, so I wasn't.
Oh, got it. No, we got Alex and then you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Alex from the Hispanic Society Museum and Library. Happy New Year to all. I first want to say thank all of you who were able to see the exhibition Gilded Figures, Wood and Clay Make Flesh, which had great reviews in the New York Times, local press. And so it was a great exhibition and got received critical praise. So we're very happy for that. Upcoming this month, we have an exhibition in collaboration with the Academy of Arts, American Academy of Arts and Letters, as well as with the West Harlem Fund, as well as with the Master Drawing Fair Week. So in conjunction with Master Drawing Week, which is end of January, we are hosting a panel discussion on the influence of the Mexican muralists on American artists at the Academy on Friday, January 28th from 10 to 12. Unfortunately, because of the rise of COVID, we have reduced the attendance to only 50 people. And so we're trying to figure out how to live stream it to share with more people. Also, we are planning an exhibition called 400 Years of Master Drawings for an Hispanic Society collection. Sorry, I'm outside in California today. Where it's 73 degrees. Anyway, make you all jealous. And that's a bird of some sort squeaking. Anyway, it's going to feature like some of our Goya drawing, and as well as Orozco and Pancho Fierro from Peru. So it's going to be a nice exhibition that does shows both Iberian Peninsula and Latin American drawings from our collection. It'll be a small exhibition, 16 or so drawings, but it'll be a nice exhibition. That'll be open to the public Friday to Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m., January 28th to the 30th. So it's only a 3-day run. We're trying to see how we can make it last longer. But as you know, everybody's hesitant to be open because of the COVID. We will be opening a new exhibition in February called Nuestra Casa, which is going to be highlights of our collection. It'll be opening February 17th to end of April. And it's going to feature our Duchess of Alba and some other master Iberian works, as well as key Latin American works by Arrieto, Pancho Fierro, and so forth. Our treasures are coming home for a bit, or have come home for a bit, but are going back out on the road to Toronto and then Europe. So we're doing a mini show of 50 works for February, March. And I'll share that information in the February meeting, but just to let you heads up. And the last thing I want to share is that we're trying to keep our workshops in the public schools, including Luperon, which is in the Washington Heights area. Again, we're probably going to start later than anticipated because of COVID. It was supposed to start next week. We're probably pushing them back to February. And those are roughly 6 classes of drawings to 100 students. So that's a big chunk of students in the local area. So that's about it. And I'll send you an email about the details. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next up, we've got,
I think Sally had her hand up for.
yeah, I think actually Sally had her hand up first. So we're going to go with Sally.
Great. Sally Fisher for Friends of Inwood Hill Park and the Washington Heights Inwood Food Council. This past weekend was chipping weekend for Mulch Fest 2022. Great job by Parks and by the Inwood and Northern Manhattan community. We chipped over 1,000 trees. And on Saturday, we also gave away gardens to go. We had the sachets and bags of mulch as we do every year. And we also this year did a food drive. When people would ask if they could donate anything, we'd say, yes, if you could donate for food for Uptown fridges. So we got a lot of donations of eggs, chicken, vegetables, all sorts of yummies, and took them over to St. Jude's. And that's something we will probably be doing on a monthly basis at the farmer's market. But a lot of turnout. It was not as balmy as Alex is enjoying in California. I think it was 9 degrees with wind chill on Saturday and a little warmer on Sunday, but the parks was great. And actually, Liam Kavanaugh stopped by and he was really gracious. So we really loved it. And there's mulch out in the park, right across from the park house on Isham. It's right off the Isham Street entrance. If people would like to stop by, pick up some mulch and give it to your favorite street tree because they are dying to be blanketed for the winter. So it was a great time, and thanks to everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, for all y'all's support. And we're looking forward to next year.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And that's brilliant that you.
Oh, wait, I have one more thing to add.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
Washington Heights Inwood Food Council, we're doing our second year of Grow from Home project. We have a lot of different things going on, but that's one of the big ones. There's information on our website and also on our Facebook page where we basically provide everything from seeds and grow materials to mushroom logs, and you can apply to join that, and we will provide everything so you can actually grow food from home. So check out our website for that. We also have scholarship opportunities for people who are going to gardening schools, etc. So check that out.
I love that. Oh, you know what? I realized I am remiss in not welcoming our newest member, Jumirna Alcober. And I'm just wondering if Jumirna could we get some videos so that we know who our fellow members are? Says there's a lot that I like about Zoom. It's really convenient. You could do this from home. You can go from one thing to the next, but it's very weird to be in meetings that you've never met, with people you've never met, and that you don't even know what they look like. So welcome.
But no pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. But we'd love to see you on video. Yeah, welcome to Community Board 12 and welcome to the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. Next
Thank you.
up, there we go. Hey, we have a disembodied voice from the interwebs. All right, well, if you have any questions, feel free to pipe in. And looking forward to meeting you in person and to working with you. Next up, we've got Jennifer Hoppa, who I think, let me just see, are there any other, I'm not seeing any other hands up, any other cultural affairs, parks groups, friends of groups, going once, going twice. In that case, Jennifer, why don't you do your event announcements and then segue into your parks report.
Sorry. Thank you, Liz, and the committee for gathering us all together. Thank you to Friends of Inwood Hill and Sally for all your work at Mulch Fest, and big shout out to Parks Forestry Division for chipping all those trees, and to all of the Upper Manhattan residents who bring them to help us generate more mulch for our street trees. Thank you to the people who joined our stewardship division and street tree care too, as part of that. You may know that as part of the COVID surge, Parks Department has given some space at J. Hood Wright and Highbridge for COVID testing in the centers themselves. Highbridge started, I guess, as early as December 21st. So just want to make people aware of that. We talked about newly, you want me to do programs first and then capital? Okay. Just some upcoming programs. Not everybody has had a chance to go up yet in the Highbridge Water Tower. You may know we finished on October 27th, we reopened it after about a 10-year closure. It was a $5 million restoration. You have an opportunity to climb up the 200 feet and to the top of the tower and get an amazing view of New Jersey, Connecticut, Brooklyn, Queens. It's really phenomenal and great views of Midtown. The next one is,
I'm sorry to be laughing, but I love that your lead office, it's a great view of New Jersey.
I love the Palisades. So the Palisades, geology.
It is.
And vistas of Inwood. January 15th, 1 to 3:30. walk right back to the tower, 174th, in Amsterdam, head in. You can't miss it from the street front. Also on January 15th, the Fort Tryon Park Trust is having a winter walk of Inwood Hill, led by naturalist Mike Feller. He used to be with the Parks Department. Now he's a professor at the School of Visual Arts. So he is a phenomenal guide, so knowledgeable, knows about a lot of the ecological restoration in the forest of Inwood, and knows tons about fauna, and has a really artistic eye about it. That's the 15th. On the 23rd at 11 a.m., the Urban Park Rangers are leading a geology tour of Fort Tryon. At Broadway and Arden is the meeting place. There's an Eagle Watch from Payson Park House on Dyckman Street on January 30th at 10 a.m. Bald Eagle Watch if you want to be led by the Rangers. And a lot more can be found on both the Fort Tryon Park Trust's website, forttryonparktrust.org/events, or on NYC Parks website, nyc.gov/parks. Just some quick capital updates, and then since we have so many capital projects, I'll just give some things, and then if people have specific questions, because we probably have about 20 different capital projects of investments being made in Uptown's parks, or 660 acres, well over, I think, about $200 million. So one thing, since we heard Francis Hall's report earlier, as many of you know, Inwood Kayak Club is a licensee of the New York City Parks Department. They operate on park land. If you're familiar with the Inwood rezoning, somewhat tied into that, there's $22 million that's been allocated to the city for waterfront infrastructure upgrades at Dyckman Street. That will include the Parks Department's Dyckman Pier. That will include the Eco Dock, now known as a community dock, that'll be going in at the Parks Department's Dyckman Marina. And it'll also include some waterfront infrastructure repairs abutting the shoreline, as well as the docks holding up Inwood Kayak Club. The project was being led by EDC. It's now been moved to the Parks Department. We are procuring an engineering design firm to do that work, with a goal of having a public input meeting about these upgrades and the community's desires, the community's concerns, all of that, I'd say in mid-spring, probably April, depending on contract registration with the city's office of management budget. So stay tuned for that. I know that's something that's of a priority for this community. We've talked about a lot over the years. Many of you know we have multi-site retaining wall contracts in various phases. The Bennett Avenue rock face is actually part of Fort Tryon Park, even though it's on the far east side. Contractor is going to be having a kickoff construction meeting. Now that the elevator project is done, Parks project to repair that rock face can advance. There's a kickoff later this week. So you should expect construction mobilization in the next few months, because obviously where it's located, there's going to have to be a maintenance and protection of traffic plan submitted to the Department of Transportation or whatnot. But that's moving forward. I mentioned last month the West Side Bike Path in Fort Washington Park that goes from 181st Street to Dyckman Street is still awaiting permits from the State Department of Transportation. So it's likely now, since it's a multi-site contract, the contractor's probably going to wait until the spring to do that, since he's trying to advance other sites while he waited for the permits. Highbridge, the Anchor Park Phase 1 area, we were subject to the holiday embargo. So no work could be done along the Harlem River Drive or Dyckman Street. That's now finished. Con Ed expects to mobilize on site, and we hope that we'll have working lights from Dyckman Street up to Laurel Hill and Fort George Avenue in the next month or two. So that's great. And we've got pathway contracts about to happen.
I'm sorry, did you say that was phase 1 or phase 2?
That was phase 1. Phase 2 is done, with the exception of the new bathroom building that's going in at Edgecombe Avenue and 165th Street. So if you haven't gone already, this committee also was invaluable in prioritizing the grand staircase at Laurel Hill. The contractor did an amazing job. It's gorgeous. It's now reopened right across the street from Yeshiva. I highly recommend on a warm day going down because the stonework is incredible. The structure
Nice.
itself is beautiful. And Parks, the New York Restoration Project, have done, plantings there and reforestation. It's really lovely. Lots of other capital stuff if people have specific questions, but I know you have
Yeah,
a long presentation.
thank you. Nobles, you had a question, and then I have a question for Jennifer also.
Thanks, Liz. Hey, Jennifer. So when it comes to the retaining walls, I know that we had discussed, I think it was the last meeting, we had possibly, I think, a resolution on it in terms of making sure that our, wishes are, hopefully heard, that our retaining walls go from priority standpoint towards the top versus the Bronx. Sounds like that happens since this work will be starting in the next month or so, or is that still a conversation happening?
Totally different retaining wall.
It's
Different retaining wall.
part of the same bundles of contracts. But
Right.
The first bundle is Gorman Park, Bennett Avenue, Fort Washington Bike Path, St. Nicholas Park.
Okay.
So those are now like in the construction phase. Isham Park, the two retaining wall sections there, one in the alley where it's collapsing, Inwood Hill Park, J. Hood Wright, and a lot of sites in the Bronx. That's still in design. So
Okay.
it's not as far ahead.
Gotcha.
We're adding a railing in the woods of Inwood Hill where a section of retaining wall is being repaired because codes have changed. So you have to put some safety railing in. So there are a few design things. This committee had been very clear about the Copper Beach. So then we're trying to work to ensure we can reinstate a Copper Beach if a tree has to be removed, that type of thing.
Thank you very much.
And just to be clear, a copper beech is a kind of tree, not a.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Swimming. That's BEECH. Janet, if you could do me a favor and just shoot a quick summary of not so much the events, but those some of the specifics on your capital updates would be great. And then I will share that with Etta as well. And if you could just give me a little bit of a view of the Parks Department snow removal procedure. From what I could tell, it seemed pretty good on the perimeters. Obviously not a lot of plowing in the, in the forest and forever wild areas, because that's never been the biggest priority. But if you can just give me a little information about that.
So the Parks Department partners with the Department of Sanitation when there's snow removal. The city's first priority always are the roads and the road network for emergency services, access and whatnots. We send Parks Department staff and Parks Department plow trucks for shifts, 12-hour shifts to the Department of Sanitation to work on that outside and away from our parks. Within our parks, our priority areas are bus stops, subway stations, places where people have to go, even during a storm. So at Isham Park, that may mean Park Terrace East down to Broadway, those stairs, right? Clearing a path on those. At Bennett Park, that may mean the Fort Washington staircase that leads to the A train across the street. At Bennett Avenue, Fort Tryon, it will be that perimeter sidewalk. So transit and access to essential services, our Broadway malls, crosswalks, those types of things really have to come first. Again, people get to work, people get to essential services, getting to medicine, that kind of thing. Then we make sure all the entire park perimeters are cleared. Following that, you move into the interior. And again, where are there places that people are definitely going? And then it's generally playgrounds at the end.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That's helpful because there's been some questions on Facebook and I just wanted to be able to respond to them knowledgeably rather than off.
One thing I left out also is, so again, getting people to work. So the historic Highbridge is part of the citywide greenway, right? For people who bike or walk to work to and from the Bronx. The West Side Bike Path is another way. Several people, particularly during COVID, are not going to want to take the subway. So they may want to ride their bike. So we actually mobilize help from outside of our immediate district staff to help with those long sort of transportation corridors.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking to see if we've got any other. Yep, Barbara has a question.
Is there a place in the area where especially young people can sign up to be snow shovelers through the Parks Department or Sanitation?
I don't know about, I know Sanitation has per diem workers. I don't know their process.
Oh,
I know for some of our step streets, like, 187 or the one that goes through Isham Park at 214th Street or the 215th Street, those are generally done by Sanitation for the Department of Transportation. Since the Department of Transportation doesn't have field staff. I can ask, but I don't know. I mean, the district manager would probably know from district service cabinet meetings.
The other person that I would also ask is Steve Simon, not because he works for the Parks Department, but because he is the chair of the committee that deals with sanitation. So he would probably know that and would probably know who's the right person at sanitation to ask about doing per diem work if that's what people want to do, or if there are particular guidelines or best practices for people who are volunteering.
Oftentimes those people are in school, so that's hard.
Right, there's a flyer that's been floating around in terms of the per diem offerings. And also, Barbara, if there are kids that want to volunteer to be snow shovelers, there is a Facebook group. I can see if I can find the link of people that do snow shoveling around the neighborhood.
Cool. Thank you, Sally. Actually, Sally, while I have you, in the Q&A, there's a question that I answered from Steva Hardcastle. If you wouldn't mind going into clicking on the answered tab and going into that and putting in your contact information or what the name of the Facebook group is so that she can get more information on the Washington Heights Inwood Food Council. And I think that's it for updates, except Natalie.
Hello, folks. This is Natalie from the Office of Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. I just wanted to thank you, Jennifer. So I just wanted to give a few quick updates. The staff is remote, working remotely, but working very hard in the field. We're reachable, and the new borough president has hit the ground running, releasing a 16-point COVID plan that you can look up on the site, releasing statements calling on the extension of the eviction moratorium, as well as the extension of the modifications to open meeting law that allow us to have this beautiful Zoom and not be out in 9-degree weather today, getting to a meeting, in addition to the health risks posed by the surge. We do have a test pop-up site happening at the 125th Street office, 9 to 2 p.m. It's PCR tests in partnership with Somos. And that is Monday through Friday only. Part of the 16-point COVID recovery plan was the development of a task force on a COVID czar. And I'm very happy to let CB12 know that the COVID czar that was named was Washington Heights' son and former deputy borough president, Aldrin Rafael Bonilla.
Wow, nice.
Yay!
Yes, indeed. And guess what? Because I know that you all are dying to do it, the CB application portal is live. So those of you who do wish to reapply for appointment, if you are not sure whether or not your appointment expires this year and that you do need to submit an application for reappointment, if you're not sure how term limits are going to impact your tenure on CB12, please reach out. I am letting you know that this is my very last meeting representing the office because Friday is my last day at the Borough President's office. So all of you who have all these wonderful announcements and updates and invitations, please email them to me, nespino@manhattanbp.nyc.gov, and I will make sure that they get into the contact universe of the new team, and you will of course be getting updates from them, reminders about your applications, invitations to fantastic stuff, and hopefully an announcement as to who your new liaison will be to CB12 and who will be handling arts and culture from now on.
Thank you, Natalie, and good luck wherever it is you are going. We will miss you from the Borough President's office. You have been just an outstanding representative of government, and such a pleasure to work with. So whoever it is who is going to be doing your job is going to have very, very big shoes. I hope they have to fill. I hope they have big feet. I'm sad to see you go. So anyway, in the chat, in the Q&A, I'm not really clear on who can view the Q&A. In case people, the general public can't, I think all of the panelists can view it, and then anybody who asked a question, they can view what the response was. So I'm just going to read that Trish Anderton said that the Inwood shoveling group is on Facebook. It's just called Inwood Shovelers, one word, plural, Inwood Shovelers. So if you're interested in offering your services or in having a neighbor help you out, you can hit that Facebook group up. And Martin wrote, per diem snow laborers pay starts at $17 per hour and increases to $25.50 per hour after the first 40 hours worked in a week. 40 hours of snow shoveling would probably kill me. So my hat is off to anybody who can do that.
Oh boy, when I was in Massachusetts, like we used to do 60 hours a week and I was a kid. It was good money though, it was good money.
Yeah, I totally shoveled cars when I lived on Long Island and when I went to school in Buffalo, but that was, you know, I'm going to be 60 in a few months. So that was like a while ago.
There's nothing you can't do.
Right?
Yeah. Like
so,
throw money at the problem this time around.
Yeah, so that information, you can find that on the DSNY website, the nyc.gov, and if you slash DSNY, and you can drill down through there. So Sally, we've got a question from you, and then we're going to move on to our next agenda item.
Okay, I just really wanted to thank Natalie for her tireless service to this committee. We've loved being your favorite committee. I'm not sure how anyone can ever replace you. I think you are irreplaceable. We will miss you, but I hope that you still come to our meetings as a non-Manhattan Borough President Office representative. But thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been an amazing couple of years.
Thank you, Sally.
You the best.
All right. We love you, Natalie.
Yeah, we do. All right, so next up, we have a presentation by the Washington Heights Corner Project. I want to thank Jason for coming. Just by way of introduction, The Washington Heights Corner Project has been in the community for more than a decade. It's quite some time, and they've been doing incredible work in the area of harm reduction, operating a needle exchange program, also offering all kinds of services for IV drug users and other persons using a variety of substances. They were an integral part of helping to keep some of what we as a community regard as undesirable behavior in public sort of off of the streets. And then when they lost their lease of their brick and mortar program, they were operating out of vans, first on 181st and St. Nicholas, and then on 181st, near 181st and Amsterdam. And they were much more visible, but they also had much less capacity. So there was this confluence of a real explosion, the opioid epidemic, which got even worse during the pandemic, and less capacity for providing the kinds of services like services to IV drug users and other drug users, and also a lot of the cleanup services that they were offering. So we were seeing more needles and more people using drugs quite publicly. So now they have their own space that they moved into a few months ago, and we're definitely seeing a positive impact in the community as a result of the services that they're providing. And then just last month, in a new program piloted for the first time in this country, they are a supervised consumption facility, one of two, one here and one in Harlem. Jason's going to give a little bit more information about that. But as anybody who's listening either now or frankly later on the recording, there's a lot of community concern and a lot of people who don't really understand sort of the full range of the problem and what Corner Project's role is in that. So Corner Project graciously has agreed to come to a number of committees, not just this one, to talk to people, give information, ask any questions, and I wanted to leave, a substantial chunk of time for this agenda item. So without further ado, and if people have questions, I encourage you to, make a note to yourself as to what they are. Feel free to raise your hands, but I'm going to let Jason kind of go through his spiel, and then, we can take questions when he's done with what he's got to report. Can't hear you. I think you're muted.
I don't think he's muted. It might be a tech issue.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the mute. I'm showing you as not being muted, but we don't hear you. Okay, it's at this point that we need to cue the Jeopardy music.
I'll take this opportunity to go quickly check on my melting down toddler right now. I'll be right back, like 2 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta say, melting down toddlers, I don't miss that. I don't miss that.
Do you want me to try? What's the person's name that wants to speak right now?
Jason, I think what he did was he disconnected and he's dialing back in.
Okay,
Here we go. Now he's connecting to audio.
cool.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Excellent.
Great, thank you so much. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and for setting me up nicely, Liz. I appreciate it. And Happy New Year to you all. Thank you for having me here. So yes, I just want to piggyback off of some of what Liz was saying. Yeah, we were homeless for about 2.5 years as an organization. And during that time, we made a pivot to deliver services in a mobile setting. So we were operating out of 3 vehicles. One was a Winnebago, and that was outfitted with space for care coordination and case management. And we also, during that time, had a strong partnership with New York Presbyterian. So we actually had a provider coming on site weekly during that time. Since then, actually in January of 2021, we signed a lease for 30 years at our current location. We've moved into a space at 500 West 180th Street, where we are currently operating. As Liz mentioned, we do have a variety of services. We operate a drop-in center where we offer respite and the opportunity for folks to engage with our staff into deeper services. We offer food, clothing. We operate based on donations. We're actually also currently hosting La Nevera, which was previously located on 183rd and Audubon, I believe. There was some, conversation going on about relocating that, and we were happy to do so. It's still open to the public. Anyone can come in, so please let folks know if they don't, or if you hear anyone who's looking for that type of resource, that they can come to Corner Project and definitely take advantage of that. In addition to that, we are also hosting COVID vaccine clinics on Tuesdays. That's through our partnership with DOH and another private partner, VIP Star Network. We're doing vaccine clinics every Tuesday. We also have a partnership in place with NYC Health and Hospitals. So some of the COVID testing and vaccination that's taking place near Highbridge Park is actually also due to part of our collaboration with NYC Health and Hospitals. So the show van is there Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And they're offering high blood pressure checks, wound care, vaccines, and testing as well. Excuse me, as well. So in addition to those things, we do have a 30-year lease. We're looking to expand our services into the floor below and the floors above. For the roof, we do plan on having a garden, and that's going to be through a partnership that we have in place with the schools on the square and the builder blocks. As far as expanding below us, we are currently working on, there's currently a hardware store where we're at, but they're going to be moving out soon. And we're going to open a cafe there to kind of like, create some jobs in the community and also cater to the building that is pretty much up now across the street from us, but it's a high rise, as I'm sure you all know. So moving on from that, part of what I do, I'm the director of community initiatives and impact. I'm currently overseeing the outreach and public safety teams, which are responsible for a lot of the community engagement and the syringe litter pickup that goes on in the community. We have a strong partnership with the Parks Department, in which we've also been able to expand our kiosk program and our efforts to divert public use and address the syringe litter issue in Washington Heights. This is a program that I'm overseeing in East Harlem and in the Bronx as well. I've been able to grow the team to 5 staff members. During that time where we were homeless, basically, it was a 2-person team. So it was a little difficult to cover as much as ground as we need. As we all know, the issue is much larger than all of us. So that's something that I've been working on diligently, is to grow the size of the outreach team, so we can address all the needs in the parks and the playgrounds and the schools and the buildings and things like that. We also do work closely with the schools, like I mentioned before, in response to kind of like some of the need that the the school administrations were identifying. One of the first things I did when I came into this role was expand the service, the outreach and public safety service to 7 a.m. That way we're doing some work on public diversion, syringe litter cleanup and things like that at these crucial times where folks are commuting, where kids are on their way to school and things like that. So we're really doing sweeps on the 179th Street corridor, the 182nd Street corridor, and things like that. We've been made aware, the team is like very flexible and highly adaptive. So we take feedback seriously. And some of what we've been hearing more recently is that the train stations, 181st Street, the 8 and the 1. We've worked that into our rotation as well. I have, some of you may know Taekwon Perry, who's the field services coordinator in Washington Heights, but we're expanding our sweeps to include the train stations as well. The main reason we're here to talk about is the Overdose Prevention Center. Some of you, it's often referred to as a safe injection site. One thing I do want to start off with in those regards is that we're trying to stray away from the SIF language, because it's not just what it is. Looking back at everything that I just said, we also offer care coordination services, referrals to detox and things like that, rehab. It's the Overdose Prevention Center is a new facet of what we're doing. So we really want to try to focus on that language. In addition to that, it's not just an injection facility. We do have, for people who use drugs, often are operating off of polysubstances. So they're using sometimes more than one drug. And with that in mind, we want to be prepared to address all of those issues and those needs. So that's why we're leaning towards the language of Overdose Prevention Center. Based on everything that we've experienced, 100,000 overdose deaths, it's also an acknowledgement to the fact that there's the fentanyl is presenting itself in a lot of substances, not just heroin. So our teams, our staff are prepared to respond to an overdose to the level of a nurse. We've revamped our overdose policies and procedures, and overgone like a total overhaul really of what we've been doing. Our goal really also is to address this matter of participants or people who use drugs being out in the street and in the community. At Corner Project, we have the Overdose Prevention Center is fitted with 6 booths. That's 6 opportunities for consumption that are not happening in the streets. Like I said, we are prepared to address any need as far as polysubstance needs are concerned. We do distribute clean syringes and glass for smokers, sniff kits for people who are using stimulants and things like that. But none of that is permitted to leave the Overdose Prevention Center. So everyone who comes in to use has that opportunity to do so under the supervision of a staff member, someone who's been trained. And all that litter is actually, disposed of in hazardous waste containers and whatnot. So just, looking at some data to date between both sites, or actually I'll use the Washington Heights information. Since we've opened on November 30th, we've had over 1,600 uses at the facility Uptown. That's over 1,600 instances that did not occur in the streets, in the playgrounds, and in our parks, and 1,600 instances that someone was not littering in public. Out of those instances, we were able to actually intervene in 56 overdoses in Washington Heights, and I think that's something that is amazing. That's 56 potential overdoses in a month that we intervened in. And this is a combination of stimulant use overdoses as well as opioid use overdoses.
Just to be clear, of those 56 overdoses, how many resulted in death and how many 911 calls were there?
Of those 56, and zero, there were 0 deaths, and there was 1 911 call. So our staff are very like mentally and physically prepared to deal with these situations. Of those 56 overdoses, 11 were stimulant involved, which means it's someone that was overamped, right? Rapid heartbeat, shallow breathing, profuse sweat, and things like that. And our team is there to kind of like de-escalate the participant, provide oxygen. This is something that, again, is not happening in the streets because we have the facility open for them to receive the care. And also in these instances, it's important to note that oftentimes this is what allows us to build a stronger rapport with the demographic that we serve, which is people who are very highly marginalized and very, very often this is the last resource available to them because of the stigma of drug use and how they're treated when they go to public hospitals and other facilities. So, this is another part of our goal is that, we want to lift the burden on the community, right? We want to lift the burden on law enforcement and the burden of carrying down the community. So we're trying to, we're resourcing that way as well. Of those 56, 39 were opioid or depressant involved overdoses. And this is, those instances where you see people slumped over, they're not breathing, they're not responsive. And again, the team was there to kind of facilitate the bringing them back, making sure that they're there at that moment when they see the overdose start, and they can jump in and prevent that. So it's actually not a fatal overdose. And again, these instances really do allow us the opportunity to dive deeper into the needs of the participant and identify what is it what are the barriers you're experiencing, right? If it's housing, we can refer them to somewhere. CUCS is one of our strong partners. They come in 2 to 3 times a week to make contacts with homeless folks that they're looking for. From there, they can get into a safe haven, and then from there, they can move on into a more permanent or supportive housing as needed. There are participants who come in and they express the need to want to engage in rehab or detox, and we can facilitate that as well. Participants who come in and use the Overdose Prevention Center, and we're there to provide them with techniques on how to be preventative as far as spreading disease. Don't reuse, don't share your supplies, and things like that. Let me see what else I can do. Oftentimes we're asked about our funding. So just so that you guys know, we do have the support of the city, but the Overdose Prevention Center is funded privately, as well as much of the rest of the programs that we run. We do receive some city grants, and we do have some city contracts, but those are primarily focused around HIV testing and Hep C testing, and things like that. In addition to that, what else can I say? We also have the facility in East Harlem. There is a difference between the two, the styles of the modalities really of the two places. Our Washington Heights facility is our peer model. It's a lot more open. We have the 6 booths for consumption. We also have 2 restrooms that are available for those who are smokers. And right now, it's not to the standard that we wanted, or we haven't reached our goal as far as the smoke room. It's 2 restrooms with ventilation in them, but in the future they will be set up to be like more so of a smoking vestibule. We do plan to install a high-powered HVAC system, much like the ones that you would find in an industrial kitchen in any restaurant. And this is just a fact of the matter that the HVAC, that system in particular, is strong enough to kind of like remove all the particulates of whatever the substance that's being used. And that will allow for staff member, once that's done, to come in and clean without risking intoxication of fumes and whatnot. In addition to the HVAC, we do plan to make the doors plexiglass so that we can see in, and install intercom system for communications as well. And East Harlem it's really more so our medical model. It's not as open, but there are 8 booths for consumption. Both facilities are equipped with mirrors and lamps and good lighting for which the mirrors really facilitate a multi-purpose philosophy. One is that it really allows for the people that are coming in to use, it allows for them to get a good look at themselves. Something that's not readily available. As simple as that is, and as simple as that sounds, it's just not something that they can do often. You'll catch people, looking at themselves in the mirrors of vehicles or in a car window to see what they look like. So this gives them that chance for a self-examination, that one-on-one, to look themselves in the eye and assess, how they feel and what they're going through. Secondly, because they're the history and the stigma of everything that they've been through, it allows them a sense of security in the fact that they can see behind them without having to actually turn around. And this is just the experience of them, looking for law enforcement to reduce the paranoia or the shame, really, that comes from using in public and in the streets. Thirdly, it allows us to kind of like see the entire space from any point in the room, and allows that's a safety measure. It's an increased safety measure. And then it also just amplifies light in the room, makes it appear bigger, feel brighter. So the booths in Harlem are really more separated. They're steel. There's wooden dividers. We do have the 2 smoking rooms as well, with the same goal of turning them into vestibules with intercoms, HVACs, and plexiglass for visibility purposes. The peer model in Washington Heights is a little more affordable. So for those who are, who want to talk about fair share and things like that, really the models are where we did that with, we created 2 separate models, or built 2 separate models with that in mind. Anyone who wants to bring an overdose program, overdose prevention center to their community in need can look at the data that we've compiled once they're ready to, and see what the benefits or the pros and cons are of building either approach. I think that's it. I think I can open up for some questions or comments if you guys have. One more thing that I want to add before we do that is that we do encourage those of you who are interested in visiting either of the sites in East Harlem or Washington Heights to reach out. I think it goes a long way in understanding really what we're doing, and you can see the dynamic of how having the Overdose Prevention Center co-located with a syringe exchange program is really a benefit. I totally understand the concerns, or we as an organization totally understand the concerns of the community as far as public use, syringe litter and things like that. We actually, agree. We don't want these things out in the street either, and that's why we're here providing these services.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that very, very thorough overview. Don't have any questions. I do just want to circle back to something you said in the beginning when you mentioned La Nevera. For people who are not familiar with that, that's a community fridge. So Sally mentioned earlier the community fridge that St. Jude's operates, which is on 205th. and 10th. There's one on 181st and Fort Wash that's operated by Fort Washington Collegiate Church. La Nivera is within the corner project, used to be on 183rd and Audubon. And thank you very much for giving that fridge a home. That's a huge community service. So looking at the round of hands, we've got Nobles.
Thank you, Chair. And Jason, thank you and the team. You guys are certainly an inspiration. What an amazing service you provide. I mean, I remember when I was watching The Wire in college and I was like, it's just common sense. We should be doing this. So I really thank you for the work you've been doing for years, and congratulations on the new space. You certainly have my support. I do have a couple questions. For one, what do you need from a marketing contact perspective? I was just trying to take a look at what like your web presence is for donations and stuff. Do you need help in that area to get you guys an official website? Like help you with, I mean, you probably already have financial connections and 501(c)(3)s and everything else, but do you need any help in that area to kind of increase your online footprint?
You might want to point out the context in which you are asking that question, because I think Jason might not quite.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that, Jason, is because you have a very unique, needed service for this country, and more people should know about this everywhere. And to have a very finished online presence, I work in marketing. I run Lysol's marketing, Airwick's marketing, all that kind of stuff. But I also had a startup for 3 years, and I was grinding. And to have that presence, like, for one, I would certainly be willing to help you if you don't already have someone. But if the city does have services that can help you do that, like I'm only one person. Having a team is what you need for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the question and thank you for the support, Noble. It's very much appreciated. To answer your question and to agree with you at the same time, yes, we definitely should have a finished online presence. Right now, it's limited to social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatnot. Our website
dealing with the trolls.
Yes, plenty of those. Right now, our website is currently being worked on because we were two separate organizations, Nairi and Corner Project. We're currently in the process of a merger. So content content is pretty much being built out for the website right now. But we do agree that it's a very important need, and with us being thrust into the spotlight like this, I'm sure people have been looking for us online, and we're not exactly where we want to be with that, but we're working on it. I personally just submitted a bunch of content to our website developers like 5 days ago. And it should be up soon. I don't have an answer as for like an ETA when it will be up, but I definitely do agree that it's much needed, and we're working on it.
Look, if you need
I can. Let's exchange information.
Yeah.
And we can talk, and I'll scout. I'll follow up with the rest of the leadership team and see if there's any unaddressed needs or we'd love the support.
Yeah, in community marketing, messaging, comm strategy, any of that, I can certainly help with that, because you guys are doing something extremely important and should be looked at with loving eyes. So thank you very much yet again.
Thank you, Noble.
Thank you. Alexis, I also love what you said about that it should be looked at with loving eyes. That's such a nice way to put it.
I agree.
First
Well
of all,
said.
yes, thank you so much for this program. It's so important. I've lost friends who didn't make it, and I have family members who survived. So this is important to me. I was curious, are there any plans to create like a hygiene center where people can take showers and such?
Oh, yes, that is definitely in my plans, and apologies for forgetting that. As part of our expansion and our next phase of renovations is to install showers and laundry services for the participants. So we're looking to install 4 showers and two washers and 2 dryers. And that's going to be co-located in the drop-in center at our location on 180th Street.
I believe Tide has a program that would be able to help with laundry, the laundromat project. Not to be confused with
Tide, the laundry detergent?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
And also, if there's any way I could volunteer in helping you source funding, I'd be very happy to do that.
Okay, I can share my email and we can connect, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And thank you again.
Thank you so much, Alexis, I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jason, if you want to send me, email me, because there's no mechanism for typing it in we don't have chat, we just have the Q&A. So if you want to email me your phone number, I obviously have your email, I will share that with Alexis and with Nobles, who has another question.
Thank you again, Chair. And speaking to that, thank you, Alexis, for bringing that up. Jason, I'll look into my company and see what kind of like pro bono services we have for getting you some Lysol disinfectant of all different types. I'm sure we've got something. We work with Title I schools very closely to give them free product. Something like this would certainly resonate on that radar. Outside of that, what is law enforcement's response to this? Have they been supportive of what you've been trying to do?
Yes, actually, Kaylin and I have done some extensive work with local precincts in both communities, in all 3 communities, actually, the Bronx included. We've been to roll call with the 3-4. We did a similar presentation to this one that we did today here, where we educated the officers at the first and second tours. So that's the 7 a.m. shift and the 3 p.m. shift. And we were able to have a wonderful exchange with them at the 34 and at the 25th precincts as well. And they're on board. Both locations have received multiple visits from officers on shift after those presentations, where they came in to take a look at the site and see what we're actually talking about, put eyes on it, and understand it, deepen the understanding that they had. There was, there were plenty of questions, but it was a good exchange of information, and we have a good working relationship with them right now.
Excellent. Since I don't see any other hands, I'll go into my third question, because I'm so glad you're here. Because I forget, like, you have, oh man, I'm so glad you're here. So, like, when it comes to the funding from the city, you were saying that you're getting a certain grant, I believe, for like hepatitis and HIV testing. Is there even a grant like from the city that would cover what you've done? I mean, this is so groundbreaking. Is there anything even there that you can even apply for to that level?
If there isn't, I'm sure there soon will be.
Right. So, because that led me to my 3.B question here, is, you mentioned fair share funding, I believe. And if I'm remembering fair share correctly from my parks experience, that is an expense that's, I think, annually renewed, not necessarily locked in. Am I thinking about that correctly, Chair? Fair share funding?
Well, the fair share funding was an annual allocation, but for all park sort of operations. And that was not an ongoing thing. That was just for like, we're hoping.
Actually, the parks funding is referred to as fair play funding.
Fair play. Oh,
that's right.
Play in parks. Right.
Yeah, no.
Fair
what
share,
I was actually referring to, I'm sorry, Steve.
Fair share must be something else.
Okay.
Yeah, what I was actually referring to was there are some people that, well, not so much in Washington Heights, but in East Harlem, there's a concern of an oversaturation of services. Like methadone clinics, shelters, and other organizations and treatment centers that, the issue in East Harlem is that a lot of time, well, the community, it feels like it's a dumping ground sometimes for services. Everything ranging from Ward's Island, dropping off folks on East 125th Street that are not from there and things like that. So there's been some talk and conversation about like equity and distribution of services. And in response to that, it's, Wards Island has added a route to their drop off, which is now on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue in the Bronx, so as not to be dumping in Harlem as much. But yeah, it's also a reference to like an oversaturation of homeless shelters in the area. There were several, like they were springing up, and hotels and things like that. But that's not really an issue in Washington Heights.
Gotcha. So that's what that meant. Thank you for the clarification. That's all my questions there, Chair.
Amazing. Thanks, Nobles.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Sorry, you caught me in the middle of a chocolate bar. That was super informative. I really appreciate it. So again, for people who are listening, if you want to learn more about the corner project, specifically the one up here, if you can just tell us your contact information, if people want to tour the facility to learn more, or if they have additional questions, what's the best way to reach out to you? Also, if they have particular hotspots that they know of for that they want you to come and clean up in terms of noticing needles and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what we want. This is the type of relationship we want to foster with the community. The population we serve is very adaptable and transient as well. So we have to be a little, we have to be able to pivot and adapt to the ever-changing circumstances. So I'm gonna give you guys my phone number and my email address if you guys want to write it down. I also emailed Liz my phone number so she can distribute that to you guys as well. But just in case, I'm at 646-938-8601. One more thing that I forgot to mention is that we're also, so part of the problem is that we're offering these super great services that the community is in dire need of. But our funding only allows us to be open until 8 p.m. So come 8 p.m., everyone's right back out. And then in the morning, we have a repetition of everything. Right now, we're working towards expanding our services from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then in the future after that, we're looking to go 24 hours. But of course, we have to pace ourselves with a scale like that. It's been a challenge to find staff and hire, everything going on with COVID and vaccinations, and the entire landscape has made it a little bit of a challenge. So we are hiring as well. You can reach out to me if you know anyone who is looking for employment. Our baseline is 18 an hour entry, but we're looking for LMSWs, LCSWs, and things of that sort.
Cool.
So you can reach out to me on that as well.
Last question on that piece. Due to the specialized nature of your work, I'm assuming volunteers are probably a no-go, or do you have a volunteer program?
We do have a volunteer program. It's not as robust as we'd like for it to be. Due to COVID, our volunteer coordinator had to resign, or she submitted her resignation like about 3 months ago. So the position's been vacant and the program is on pause. It's at a crawl right now where, we're taking as many groups of volunteers as we can, but it normally would be a lot more. And anyone who does want to volunteer would undergo, like a safer sharps training, a harm reduction 101, to kind of familiarize them with what the philosophy is, about compassion and care and humanizing the entire experience for the folks that we serve. We're looking to fill that so that we can continue moving that program forward.
Cool, thanks.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say from the Parks Department, we've appreciated a close working relationship with the Corner Project, and we've come on tours of the new OPC Center, and it's really wonderful that people can receive the services they need, have people care, and offer a whole range of services. And then it does free up some of the park sites from open air drug use that maybe people are uncomfortable with or makes other people feel unsafe. So we just applaud the perseverance of Corner, and we appreciate their ongoing partnership with us to make the parks safe and welcoming for the public.
Yeah, it certainly has been a pleasure, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your support.
We're really, really excited about the 2 facilities.
Yeah. I also, on a personal note, do want to say that if your services had been available in Manassas, Virginia, I would still have a nephew. So thank you for all the work you do. Barbara gets the last word on this. I just saw that she had her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, oh, Liz, could you start my video again, please? I just wanted to ask 2 things. One is people have asked how many of your clients are coming from basically Community Board 12 area, and how many are coming from outside our area. That doesn't matter to me, but it is something to know. And then 2, you said that you're only privately funded. I'm a supporter of your project. Why is that? Why aren't you heavily funded by like the Department of Mental Health Services? And then my third question is, especially, I mean, with fentanyl, the ease in which people, the quickness in which that poison kills. How many people so far have you been able, as part of your mission, to ease over to rehabilitation services and on a new path? So that's 3 questions.
Okay, so as far as our funding goes, that's the current split that we have right now is more or less like a 90-10 as far as private funding and city funding.
Who's funding you? Where's the private funding? Who is it? What is it?
I'll be honest, I don't have an answer for that question, but I can give it to you if you give me some time.
I'm sorry, when you said 90-10, that's 90 private.
Like 90% private funders through different organizations, private grants and things like that. And then 10%, more or less 10% city grants and contracts. And we're looking to change that. We've applied for a lot more funding from the city. We're getting we're also getting funded for COVID things now. So, and we're anticipating fiscal year 22 to have a lot more city funding.
And if I'm not mistaken, the fact that it's private funding is just for the overdose prevention. There's city
yes, it's just yes,
and stuff for the other services that you've been providing for years.
That is correct.
It's the legal status.
Yeah, and also to be clear, the overdose prevention services are not funded with tax dollars because there's still this sort of
controversy.
Well, it's not just that it's a controversy. There's a real legal gray area. So
war on drugs.
Until that gets resolved, you know, one of the hopes as a policy matter is when people see just how effective this is from a public health perspective, the positive impact that it's having for law enforcement, for emergency rooms, for, you know, all of that, there may well be a change in federal policy, in local policy, and then funding streams may come available. But right now, this is kind of a cart going before the horse and dragging the horse along with.
Well, that's my second and third questions. How much of your clientele is from our community? How much is from outside the community? And the third, how many people have you been able to move on that path to a new life and rehabilitation?
So we know that a large portion of the folks that are using our services are local. We do attribute, I can't give you a number, but there is, because of the George Washington Bridge, you know, a large population, not a large, but a good amount of people who do come in from New Jersey or upstate, but primarily our folks are locals. people who've lost their homes due to or businesses, people who have been overprescribed opioids and things like that. I really can't. We don't have. Brent is not here right now. He's our data person. He would definitely have those numbers. But I can say from my experience, and I've been here 3 years working at Corner Project, is that a lot are locals.
What percent homeless? What percent homeless?
I would say at least about 70% homeless to be.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, and these are folks who are really who've been in and out of the shelter system, and it hasn't worked for them, or they've had a traumatic experience, and we work our best to get them housed, whatever way that manifests itself in.
Sure.
And then again, I don't have a specific number to speak as far as people who have engaged in treatment and changed their lives through our programs. But I can say that at Corner Project, we do, and IRE, we do offer these employment opportunities to folks with lived experience. And to this day, we do have staff that we offered them an opportunity from when they were on the street, and the opportunity, allowed them to change their lives. Someone who went from a participant who is now on their way to becoming a program manager, and other folks who went from participants to becoming navigators, HIV navigators, Hep C testers, and things like that. So there is a point of I don't want to use the word recidivism, but folks that don't always stay off. Like they don't always disengage. Life circumstances sometimes brings them back. But that's the beauty of the program, is that we're here to facilitate that turn for them.
Do you have do you run any kind of groups or therapy at the project, or do you have kind of a partnership with some kind of community areas like church basements or some churches where you're able to meet and kind of build a community, like, oh, we're Cornerstone people, something like that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Currently, we have a hepatitis education group. We have a sexual health and wellness group, an HIV group that we run. These are all educational. And we have a program called Rest Here. And that is a women's program. It's available. It's a service that's provided on Fridays at Corner Project, where they can come in, get some clothing, get their hair done, get cleaned up a little bit. And that happens once a week. We're rotating between sites because it's the same staff member running the program. So, and we want to make it more robust. So we're encouraging folks from all communities to come by.
You have to get that out more. I mean, you really need that's got to be broadcast more. People have to know about that.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and one more thing, as far as partnering with other community organizations, part of my previous role in Corner Project was that I was the care coordination manager overseeing the HIV and Hep C testing programs and the care coordination unit in general. And I did a lot of outreach to organizations in the community. So we were providing some of these groups to, like, let's say the Help USA shelter that's on Audubon, and the testing and the vaccination services as well to organizations in the area. So yes, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Barbara.
everybody, for your questions. Steve, Simon, you're going to get the last word, and then I'd like to move the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Wearing my hat as the chair of the Health Committee and Health and Environment Committee for Board 12, I just want to piggyback on Barbara's questions and mention that we did get a presentation from the Corner Project at our meeting last week, and we asked similar questions as Barbara did, asking for information, the breakdown about the clientele, whether they come from our community or outside the community, and also some information about the numbers of people who end up going into treatment programs because of the Corner Project's intervention. But let me just mention one of the most hopeful things that I heard last week in our presentation was when Kaylin C., the Senior Director of Programs, reported to us that they have had representatives of treatment programs station workers inside the corner project and sit there trying to work with the substance abusers, the drug addicts, and convince them to go into treatment. And they spend a lot of time there, sitting there, talking to them for maybe hours on end, trying to get them into treatment. So I found that particular linkage and that particular effort to be a very good sign. And I'm hoping, Jason, that Kaylin or you will get back to me and to Liz with the details about the success you've had with convincing people to go into treatment. I think that would be a major talking point for the program. And if I could just ask Jason, your phone number again, 646-93. What was the next number?
It's 938.
Oh, 938-8601.
Yes.
938-8601. All right. I think I'm probably going to call you about something else. Okay. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Jason, you're welcome to stay on for the for the rest of the meeting, although you obviously don't have to. Usually we would, that's it for our formal agenda, but we always have old business, new business, additional announcements as a final agenda item. We don't have any old business, but I received an email last night from a member of the public who I thought was going to be on the call this evening, but is not, about the Lighthouse Link, which is, for those of you who are not familiar with that. So if you're down by the Little Red Lighthouse, which we love, it's under the Great Gray Bridge, there is the bike path that goes south. And there's also a little bit of a bike path that goes north and then connects up with the pedestrian overpass bridge at 181st Street, or you can connect up with the path along the Henry Hudson Parkway. But if you can take that up to Dykeman Street, where there's that beautiful switchback that leads back down to Dykeman Street. Now, from Dykeman Street, closer to the water level, like just along the water, there's a beautiful, relatively new path that goes south for about, I think it's 1.25 miles, maybe it's 1.5 miles. And then it kind of ends with a loop around and you come back. Like, it doesn't go further than how far it goes. And if you were to attempt to walk by yourself, you would come either up against the Amtrak train or you'd be getting your feet wet because you'd like be in the water. You can't really go further south all the way to the lighthouse, but it would be great if we could. That missing piece, that is, I'm sure Steve's going to jump in and correct me with the actual length, or Jennifer's going to correct me with the actual length, but I guess it's like a couple of miles. That's the Lighthouse Link, and that's the project that we have had as a capital priority for several years. It never makes the top 25 because there are always so many other things, and it's also incredibly expensive. We don't actually know exactly how much it's going to cost. The cost estimates range between, I've heard 30 million, I've heard 90 million. I mean, it's like a huge amount of money that's always been almost abstract, because this is not an amount of money that a city council member is going to be able to allocate on their own. This is a capital project that's, that's kind of up there with like the bringing back the Highbridge. That was millions and millions and millions of dollars. So the member of the public who reached out to me about that and asked about this committee passing a resolution asking for funding of that, it occurs to me, and I'm sure it's probably occurred to you as well, that with the Build Back Better and huge investment from the federal government in all kinds of infrastructure, that this might be appropriate for federal funding. The only way this thing is ever going to happen is with some federal funding. So I don't know. Is this something that we want to pass a resolution on? Is this not something that we want to pass a resolution on? We could, in theory, write a letter to our elected officials, reminding them that this has been a capital priority of ours, and we don't necessarily need to pass a resolution because we have opined on this matter through our budgeting process, most recently, 2-3 months ago. But we could pass a resolution if people think that that's appropriate. So that's what I got for you. And I'm happy to take thoughts, questions, discussion. First, I'm seeing Etta.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I think a resolution is merited here because circumstances have changed. Like you said, this has been a priority for the committee for several years. And it's just, we're restating the importance. And in light, like you said, of this access to federal funds, which is new and this is important. So I think that a resolution kind of brings it back. We'll summarize briefly what the summary is, like how long this has been a priority, why this is the only way we would be able to get this funded and get this completed, and why we have a resolution now is because of the Build Back Better infrastructure funds that are possibly available.
Got it. Okay. Sally.
I would agree with Etta. I also think that we should maybe make this a discussion topic for our next meeting in terms of broadening our focus to other priorities we might have that could be funded with some of the new federal dollars. And I also want to bring up something else, which is now that we have a new representation with City Council, I think that maybe we should try and engage Carmen's office in one of our meetings in terms of what her priorities are and emphasizing what our priorities are. And then I had a question, which is in the last round of the bulk street renamings, it seemed like there were people on the list that actually had been alive through 2021. And so I just had a question as to whether or not the requirement for being dead for so many years has been lifted by City Council, or what's going on there, and whether that might affect our request for a naming for Maria Law. So that's just an open question. I don't know.
So hold on. One of the things that I can say is that, to repeat, the request for the naming for Maria Law is for the Isham Alley, which is not a street. It's part of the Parks Department. So that would be a parks naming and not a street naming. And the rules for parks namings are a little bit different than the rules for street namings. Does that help?
Yeah, I didn't know, I was just curious about what was going on with City Council, and I didn't know if they lessened the requirement, whether Parks was considering lessening the requirement too. And that's just open. I don't need an answer today.
You had something you wanted to add to that, Jennifer?
Just that as of now, the parks policy is still deceased for 3 years for in park location.
Great, thanks, Jennifer.
I don't know. I haven't heard about any changes to the City Council, but I would doubt it.
I love your idea of asking Carmen or one of her representatives to come to sort of talk about her vision for parks. I'm a little embarrassed that did not occur to me first, so thank you. And teamwork makes the dream work, so I really appreciate that. I don't presume to have any ideas about her scheduled, but I'm gonna guess that she's probably pretty busy, but also happy to attend or to send somebody, if not to our next meeting, then to the one after that. So I will definitely
Great. And
ask her about that.
I've also gotten notices from like Gail Brewer's new city council office and other city council members about participatory budgeting. And I'm not sure if that's something that Carmen is going to join in this year.
I would assume so, but I have absolutely no idea. But I can follow up with her about that. So in terms of the lighthouse link, I certainly understand your question, Sally, about can we add some other things? I do, I don't want to turn the resolution into like a laundry list of every capital item, because there are so many that not only we have as a committee, but that we all have as a board. I think what's really different about this one is the sheer size. There's no capital project within CB12's list that is this big. This is really, this is huge as single projects go. So I
I would
think,
like to see a resolution on that separately. I'm just saying next
I
meeting,
see.
open it up to other things.
I
So that
got
we
you.
keep generating resolutions, but yes, I like single focused resolutions.
Okay. Okay, so if everybody who's on the committee as a voting member can put their video on, because it's just a lot easier to do a straw poll that way. So I can get, Alexis, are you still here?
Yep.
So
Okay.
what are we going to do a poll on exactly?
So I want to just get a sense from people, thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we want to do a resolution calling on our federal representatives? That would be not only obviously Congressman Espaillat, but also Senators Gillibrand and Schumer, that we get some federal funding through Build Back Better for the Lighthouse link. The reso would include some history about, defining like what that project is and its history as a budget priority for this board. And it would be by necessity vague on what the specific financial ask is, since we don't actually yet know what the budget estimate would be. I think about as specific as we'd be able to get is tens of millions of dollars. Because I think, pulling a number out of my nose is not going to be particularly useful. And if it should happen that we have an actual number or a tighter range before our general meeting, then obviously we could make that edit. But I think if we don't, I would rather go with something that's fairly vague so that at least it's not like wrong or misleading.
Tens of millions is good.
Um,
And if you could just shoot us a copy of the resolution before it's presented to the board so that we.
Yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I haven't written it yet, but I'm kind of, it would follow that basic pattern. Are there other things also, to Edda's point, that the reason why this is a resolution now is that a very particular thing has changed and that it's quite timely. So all those in favor, hands up.
You got the majority.
Yeah.
Looks like I got everybody. We got Danny, yes. Nobles, yes. Barbara and Etta and Alexis and Sally, yes. And me, yes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Now, isn't there also state greenway money?
There could in theory, but this is, but no, I see somebody who knows way more about this who's jumping in. Please help me out, Jennifer.
Sure. So Barbara, there's a couple things, periodically there's federal transportation funding, and that's administered by the State Department of Transportation. So you apply for FHWA or it used to be like T23. There are all these things, all these programs that you could apply for, and then it's administered by the state. Separately, your state elected official may have some discretionary money, but to Liz's point, given the scale of this project, I'm not sure that they would have access to that size discretionary money. When you're doing a project on city land, generally, you're not allowed to start designing it until you have all the money in hand. So a state senator could, allocate $500,000, and that would probably just stay there. So something else to keep in mind. And that's why in the past, the Parks Department has tried to get, say, a Tiger grant, or through the omnibus bills, tried to get, when it was Clinton and Schumer, trying to get them, to build it into legislation, because it's a pretty sizable chunk of change.
Because supposedly New York State is committed that there's supposed to be a greenway that goes all the way from Battery Park to Albany.
Sure.
Through Kingston to Albany.
This does go all the way through New York. It's just that alternate route where north of the lighthouse, you have to go up that steep hill.
Oh,
then you're west.
Right.
So, and also state grants tend to be, capped at like $1 million. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Okay, that's the wiggle around it. I see. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, I do want to point out we have in the chat Ira Gershenhorn saying that actually one can walk south from the path to nowhere to the lighthouse without getting one's feet wet at high tide. That's true, but you have to scrabble over an awful lot of rocks.
And the Parks Department doesn't own all that land. A lot of that is owned by Amtrak.
So you're trespassing, which, have at it. But he also is saying to pass the resolution. So we have passed the resolution. I will do my best to get this to you sufficiently in advance of the general meeting. I'll try and get that to you sometime next week so that you can provide me with feedback. And I have one other item in the chat under new business. I think this is sort of more for Jennifer as a parks issue. Steve Denoyer, I hope I pronounced that correctly, has an early morning daily problem with off-leash barking dogs in Bennett Park, across which he lives across the street from there. Parks responds to 311 complaints. Parks response to 311 complaints is that they don't have the resources to address the problem, but barking dogs are waking him up at 6:30 in the morning, and it can go on for an hour or two. So, thoughts?
The Parks Department is getting additional park enforcement officers. And so with the increase in staff, we'll be able to do more patrols and more shifts. They're balancing COVID responsibilities, encampment, Code Blue. We do lots of outreach with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to people who are living out in the parks during these freezing temperatures, as well as cooperating with law enforcement on some, larger quality of life issues. But we're aware of the problem, and as we get additional resources, we can have them deployed at Bennett, and additional tours, early morning tours as well.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, Steve Simon, you've got your hand up. Is that a new hand or an old hand?
It's a new hand.
Okay.
I have four quick things to say. Number one, I want to acknowledge that Mr. Denoyer and his wife are two valued alumni of the Parks Department. They did a lot of great work as landscape architects for this agency. And anything we can do, Jennifer, to alleviate that problem for the two of them, we should try to do. Number two, I will try to get you a better estimate if possible for the Lighthouse Link before the board meeting. And I want to assure people that the Lighthouse Link is a very important priority to the Parks Department. And if you recall, we were the ones who asked you to put it on your budget list to begin with for the FY23 cycle. In answer to Sally's question about participatory budgeting, the two council, neither Council District 7 or 10 are on the list that I was sent of council districts where PB is being used this year. And finally, I want to ask, we have a project coming up, what we call the State of Good Repair project, to replace the pathway and benches in Port Washington Park between 171st and 176th Streets, directly below the lighthouse, below the tennis courts. I want to know whether you would like us to make a presentation of that project at your next meeting.
This doesn't seem terribly controversial. I mean, this is kind of like an operating thing. Are you substantially changing the placement? I'm thinking no.
No, the pathway is basically being repaved. It is not, the width is not being changed. We're doing some work along the edges to improve the appearance and try to prevent erosion. And we are upgrading the benches. They'll be more at least aesthetically pleasing. But basically it's a replacement in kind.
Maybe Jennifer could incorporate.
So here's the thing. I'm hearing what I was about to say, the same thing. Do we need like a whole full presentation? We don't need a resolution, but I think it always is nice to have a little bit of information about what it's going to look like. So if you have a short, very short presentation that someone can make that can give us an idea of like what that's going to consist of, that would be great. Because I think, for people who are using the parks, particularly in a time of Zoom, more people are attending. It's a nice way to get the word out. Having some slides that invariably someone's going to take a screenshot and post on Facebook and go, hey, we're getting some new benches. Isn't that wonderful? I think that would be actually useful, but I don't think we need a resolution on it. I don't think it needs to be a particularly long presentation, certainly not controversial.
No, it certainly shouldn't be controversial, and it doesn't require a resolution. But I do want to use this opportunity to inform the community of an upcoming improvement and work that will be taking place in the park.
Okay, yeah, if somebody's able to do that at our next meeting, that would be great. I'm just looking at the calendar. Our next.
While you look at the calendar, I was going to ask a quick question of Sally. Sally, that mulch, it's on Isham and where?
It's the Isham Street entrance, Isham and Seaman Avenue. If you walk in the Isham Street entrance and you see the park house, it's right across from the park house.
Got it. Will it be there this weekend?
Yeah. I mean, It's a
Awesome.
pretty big pile, so I assume it's not going to be used up by then.
Awesome. Thank you.
And if you're running late and you worry about it, just, shoot me a
You
text.
saved my mulch. Thanks, Sally.
But bring your girl.
By the way, Steve, tell Deputy Commissioner Kavanaugh how honored we were to see him. That was really nice. And he came up and thanked all the parks workers. So it was great to see him up here.
Oh, he didn't even tell me he was doing that. Very good.
I have to say, he's very hands-on. He's been our first deputy commissioner for a long time.
Right.
He's come to events at Bennett Park, Inwood Hill Park, Fort Tryon Park, Highbridge Park. He was previously the chief of operations for Manhattan Parks way back when. So he really knows the parks of Uptown and loves them. So it's really
It made a
great.
huge difference to the parks workers. And in fact, they spent a lot of time that day and the next day telling us about how much they love him.
Oh,
and how much
good.
they love him.
He's a great guy.
He really is.
No, I was so thrilled to see him, as were fellow volunteers.
Okay, I think that is it.
Motion to adjourn?
I second.
Fantastic. It is 8:35. That's a motion by Nobles and a second by Barbara. Thank you, everybody.
Nobles has to practice his putting game, so he wants to get out of this meeting.
Yeah, that little curve in my hallway is calling me there, Steve.
All
I
right.
see you.
I will see you all on February 8th, and I'll see those of you on the board at our January meeting. And thank you all for coming, and shout out to Mary Anderson, our colleague on the board, but not on this committee, for dialing into this meeting as well.
All right.
Have a
Good night, folks.
fantastic evening.
Thanks, Etta. Thank you for taking
Good night,
notes.
everybody.